Okay, so another piece we wanted to cover here is how to create terrains from pieces that don't necessarily come from or make sense to come from corridors. So I have an example here. As you can see, this is a drainage pond that we'll need to get into our proposed surface. This is a little maintenance road for them to come around and make a U-turn. Here's the top edge of our pond, and the bottom edge doesn't really make sense to put it in a corridor, but we can make a proposed surface fairly easily and quickly without having to do that. So I'll kind of run through this example. I have my just 2D line work in here that shows my edges. So we'll think of these as our break lines. And so in order to make the proposed surface, obviously we need to give it that 3D data. So what I can do, I have the profile view here. This is our bottom of our pond. We have our existing ground in here, but we can assign, if you think back to our geometry sections, we can use the same tools we used before to give it some elevation data. So I'll switch to the geometry tab here. We'll do profile by constant elevation. This is just the bottom of a pond. So usually if you're doing this, the elevation is already defined. I want this element, and we'll do it at 26. So now I have a line drawn in here. This is the 3D element. It should be set active. We'll set it active. And I can do that for all of these pieces. We don't need to watch me do that. I've already done the other ones. So here, this is the boundary of the ramp we made before, but this is our 3D break lines or feature lines we've drawn already. So assigning the elevation through the profile view is one way to do it. For a situation like this, it's probably the easiest. So we have the 3D elements in there. That's perfect. I'll show one more useful tool that we can use. So if we go to this model detailing, we can, this is where you can find the surface templates, the linear templates we used before, but there's this 3D elements tool set here as well. So there's a couple different ones in here. The slope to target is a really useful one if you're doing something like this, like the feature grading method. So I'll show an example here. So it'll give us a whole big list of options. We want to slope to a terrain model. So that should be our existing terrain, which I have set active. You can see the boundary up here. I want it to cut and fill whatever it has to do. I've specified what slopes I would like: 2-to-1 cut, 4-to-1 fill. Perfect. So I'll flip through here. What's my reference? I have the ramp on the backside, but all of this I want to be grading. And I don't really want to have to draw it and make sure it connects to existing ground. That's a little tedious. So this is where I can use this tool. So I'll select this reference element, reset for the active, cut and fill. We'll do the right side here. I can set a start and stop. It'll kind of show me where that fill slope is drawing, and I can end and accept. And now, if you see over here, this is drawn a 3D feature line along where our slope will intercept the existing surface. So now I'm not trying to draw slopes. This can be done by linear templates, but I think this 3D elements tool is just as good to just throw something down there. So now we have our elements here. So now we actually need to make it into a surface. So that's the last tool I'll show here. If we go back to our terrain, we can use the same from elements tool as we used before. We'll locate our elements. I want this 3D feature I drew, and I would like all my break lines to actually grade out this pond. So I'll reset when done. It's all break lines. Remove slivers works great. And now it's dropped in. Now I have a kind of odd shape, something that doesn't make sense to actually model in a corridor. And just as easy as that, it shows up as a 3D surface. So this is its own terrain model. I didn't specify a feature definition, so it probably called it terrain model 1. That's fine for this example. We can, if we reference this into the file that we cut our cross sections from, it'll cut cross sections, it'll show up, and a fairly quick and simple way to grade out and show a kind of an odd shape here. So there's some our edges aren't perfect, but as we continue today, I'll show ways to clean those up and get kind of a final proposed surface here. So Sahar, we can end this recording.